Hello everyone, it's Nat here, aka the Wolf of Watertown, and welcome to the Wolf's Den. Today, we'll be discussing everything you need to know about the TSP retirement account. The TSP, or Thrift Savings Plan, is the exact same thing as a 401, except it's used for government employees and service members. The 401 and TSP are provided by your employer as sort of like an incentive to say, hey, look, we care about you and we also care about your retirement. Now, they might not actually care about you, but it's a very nice gesture and you should definitely take advantage of it. Being that the 401k and the TSP are essentially the same thing, I will be primarily discussing the TSP because the 401 might vary slightly based off of your employer. Now, with the TSP, you can either enroll in what is known as the traditional or the Roth TSP. The main difference between the traditional and the Roth TSP is when you pay your taxes. Now, the advice I personally like to give people is that if you're more than 15 years from retiring, invest in a Roth. If retirement happens to be knocking on the door, then invest in a traditional. So why should you invest in a Roth, you're probably thinking? Well, the money you put in a Roth TSP or 401 is not taxed before putting it in the account. The gains you make on your contributions is also not taxed. And as of 2022, you can make a max contribution of $20,500 if you're the age of 45 and under, and a max contribution of $27,000 if you are 50 and over. And here's the kicker. Most employees have a 5% employee match. So everyone who is a service member, that includes you, you get a 5% employer match. So as long as you put up to 5% of your income into the Roth TSP or 401k, you're essentially getting free money. I repeat, free money. If you're not sure if your employer provides this 5% match or whatever kind of match they might provide, contact your company's HR department and they'll be able to provide you with this information. The age for withdrawal is 59 and a half years old. But Nat, what if I want my money earlier than that? Well, loyal YouTube subscriber, you can withdraw from the contributions you've made to the account penalty free, but you can only withdraw from your contributions, not the gains. The account keeps track of how much you've made and how much you've actually contributed. Now, if you want to withdraw everything earlier than age 59 and a half, then you would pay taxes on the gains along with a 10% penalty. I personally very strongly suggest not withdrawing any money from your TSP or 401 because the sole purpose of the TSP and 401 is to be your safety net for a comfortable retirement and not because you want that brand new car. You also want time and the power of compound interest working for you and your dollars. Now let's take a deeper dive into the TSP. Let's say you don't plan on retiring in the military or at your current civilian job. In this case, you can do what's known as a rollover of your Roth TSP to your new retirement plan or into your own personal Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is not the same as a Roth TSP or a Roth 401k. A lot of people seem to get the two confused, so I will make another video that will focus primarily on the Roth IRA. But for now, let's just stick with the TSP. So within the TSP, you have what are known as lifecycle funds, and then you have individual funds. The lifecycle funds are the L2030, L2040, L2050, so on and so forth. What I found is that a lot of people don't actually understand these funds. So the year that is associated with the fund is the year that you're expected to retire in. For example, the L2030 is for someone who's expected to retire in the year 2030 or who's expected to start making withdrawals in the year 2030. The Lifecycle Fund is made up of the individual funds to create a balance in your portfolio that will adjust over time. So the rule of thumb is take more risk when you're young and play it safe as you get closer to retirement so you don't end up losing all your money. When it comes to money, what you'll learn is that your greatest asset is time. And as you get closer to retirement, you have less time to recover if the market was to potentially take a hit. So now that you have a better understanding of the life cycle fund, we're going to look at the individual funds that make up the TSP. So I want you to stay with me and bear with me for a second. But this is a way I came up with to remember all the funds that make up the individual funds in the TSP. So my girlfriend is a CSI agent. Get it? GFCSI. And it works out perfectly because the G and F fund have the lowest risk and also bring the lowest return. And they are girlfriend. Just think of them as an overhyped savings account. I personally don't invest in either the G or the F fund. And I think the only people that should be invested in these two funds are people who are literally about to retire like tomorrow. Unfortunately, there are a lot of service members out there who contribute to the TSP but don't ever look at their account. And the automatic settings within the TSP will have your money going directly into the G fund. This is absolutely ridiculous because the G fund has just over a 2% growth rate, and the current rate of inflation today is 6.8% due to how much money the government has printed due to COVID-19. So believe it or not, if your money is sitting in a savings account, a check-ins account, or going towards the G and F fund, you're actually losing money. Crazy, right? Now the C, S, and I fund have the most risk associated with them, but also bring the highest rate of returns. Specifically when we're talking about the C and S fund, which have just over a 13% return on investment over a 10-year period, while the I fund has about a 5% return on investment over a 10-year period. The C fund is the common stock, which is also known as the S&P 500, and the S fund is a small cap, also known as the Dow Jones. The I fund represents the international stocks. In my personal Roth TSP, I invest only in the C fund and the S fund. I have an 80% allocation towards the C fund and a 20% allocation towards the S fund. So now the idea behind this is that I'm fairly young and I have a lot of time. So I can afford to be extremely aggressive while I'm young now because I have the time just in case the market does crash. I always have that time for it to bounce back. And from my experience with market crashes within the past, the American government will always step in order to help big corporations. So I know if I'm aggressive now and something were to happen to a big corporation, the United States government would step in, bounce back, and I'll still see my returns at the end of the day. Now, if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas for any future topics you want me to discuss, make sure you leave a comment below and I'll make sure to make a video on whatever topics you want to hear about. Also, if you are unsure about anything I talked about today, you can feel free to DM me on Instagram at Wolf of Watertown and I'll get back to all your questions. Have a great day.